It's me. It's Sarah G. Witch MD. I'm coming to you from my abode. I love that theme song. It's my best. It's my favorite thing. So, anyway, hi. It is Tarot Tuesday, and that means that it's time for me. Tonight, I have a guest that is one of my close friends, as well as somebody who studies a lot of what we do here, there, and everywhere. I have Karen McGovern, who's a licensed massage therapist, among other things, here on the show with me tonight. Hi, Karen. Long time
Hi,
no see.
Sarah. I know. Hello. So
Hi.
happy to be here. Thanks for
Thank
inviting
you.
me.
Of course, of course. So, as you know, we've talked about is that I pull a card. I did pull one off camera.
Mm-hmm.
And since it's Tarot Tuesday, we're going to talk about that first. And you can tell me what this card means
Cool.
to you. And I will
Sure.
kind of reiterate and go forward with what it means to me. But I do have, see, I can never find. It's the King of Wands here.
Woo.
The King
Yeah.
of Wands.
He's
So
steamy.
he's steamy. You got that
Mm-hmm.
right in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
So, any
Yeah.
thoughts about that or anything that
It's
you wanted to?
weird because I was just talking about him earlier,
Yeah,
which is not weird, actually, right?
no, not in what we do.
No. Yeah, so King of Wands is like the best of the best when it comes to business, I think.
Mhm,
He knows his stuff. He's the big old marketing dude, you
mhm,
know.
mhm.
He's the Leo.
Yep.
Yep, this is what it means to me, actually, I see Leo. Um, he is steamy and dreamy
Mhm.
and charming.
Yes, I agree. I agree in all those things. So also, yes, Leo energy here, but we also have that Sagittarian energy that's happening too.
Mm.
And right now we're kind of steeped in that Sagittarian
Ooh, good
kind of,
point.
yeah. So, and the reason why I say that is that here's a little tarot tip. And Karen, you've taken my class before. When you do get a court card, it's supposed to kind of talk about a personality or a situation regarding a certain person, right?
Mm.
So when we look at that, sometimes what we can do is we can put that card to somebody or kind of connect the dots when it comes to that card with somebody within our life. So my husband's a contractor and he's always building things and he's a Sagittarian. So, you know, kind of this energy is what I think of him. He is steamy and dreamy, that's for sure. And he knows what it means to be part of a business and what to make his business grow. He is self employed. So that makes a
Perfect.
lot of sense for kind of the energy that we have and what we're in the season of that Sagittarius season. So we're kind of in this idea of growing and kind of putting things into the ground in order to let things happen, i.e., in a business sense. Whether you're a small business, whether you are you're trying to get something off the ground, a lot of people are spending money. A lot of people are putting things out there. Even if you are not creating anything, it is sort of the idea of creating something within your business. The King of Wands and the King of Coin or the King of Pentacles is a little bit different because that King of Pentacles, anything he touches turns to gold. But this is we're
Right.
starting the thought process. It's sort of like we're building from the ground up, right?
Right.
And a lot of people are doing that right now with what they are trying to put out there or trying to gather ththings together for the
Mm-hmm.
holiday season, whether that is gifts, whether that is meeting with family, whether that is connecting with people that you love and you want to you spend time with, i.e., you and I, or earlier this week.
Yes.
But it's kind of forging that or for putting forward that bridge in certain ways and building those connections in different ways, which
Yes.
is extremely important as a business person. So you are entirely correct, I feel
Yes.
like.
Building
Awesome.
connections for sure.
Building connections,
Yeah.
perfect. And that king energy, again, you did mention that he knows what's up. He's not going to connect with somebody he's not going to make a good decision with or make some sort of bond with. He's not going to contact that person that doesn't mean anything to him or her for that matter. It's
Right.
we are looking for that connection within that friend group or the people that we care about that we want to say, hey, happy holidays, happy whatever you celebrate. I Before the end of the year, I just wanted to see your face, that kind of a thing. So,
Correct.
yep. And speaking of entrepreneurial spirit and the idea of being self-employed, right? So you
Yes.
are a Jill of all trades. I can absolutely say that. And I feel like, again, planting those seeds and kind of letting things grow in certain ways, you are the manifester of that. I've known you for about 4 years, and what you've done since I've known you is you've taken classes, you've bettered yourself, you've bettered your craft. It's not only about being massage therapist and that's it. There's so many other things that you continue to do within your livelihood, i.e., as well as your life. So let's talk a little bit about that and kind of get into that. So you are a massage therapist, but what else? What other licenses or what other things do you do?
So, while I was living in Maryland, I became a gyrotonic trainer, which is kind of like a Pilates trainer, but
Mm-hmm.
just a little different. Um, and I have a dance background. So
Mm-hmm.
I really related to gyrotonic because of my dance background. Um, in the interim, while I was doing that, I also trained in cranial sacral work. Um, what else? Like when I moved back here, I did a year of Ayurvedic training. I also, with that, got my 200 hours in yoga. So currently I'm training. I'm this year, I'm going to complete NKT1. Like you just do all these things because
Mm-hmm.
I want to make my business better, but it's not just about business as in money. It's business as in making my clients leave in a better place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People come to
Yep.
me because they're in pain or discomfort of some sort. And it's, the connection of not just the physical connection of being being in discomfort, it's the emotional cell,
Yeah.
real deep discomfort. So people don't really realize that they come in with body aches, and then there's lots of other things that are connected to that.
Right. And for my practice and what that I do, and I know that you can kind of agree with this, it's not just one thing. So sometimes when somebody comes, I'm sure to you as they do to me, they have one thing on their mind, but really what you've uncovered, if it is the body work that you're doing, if it's the energetic work that you're doing,
Correct.
you also
Cranial
realize
sacral.
that there's more to it, and you unpack a lot more than just that one thing that you possibly came from for,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and I love again that we're talking about that connection because again, it kind of harkens back to what that card is of the day in a certain way, but
It
having
is.
a connection that it's not only it's mind, body, and soul, right? So they're coming in with a sciatica or there's leg cramps or there's something, right? But really you're determining it's more than that. Maybe there is some sort of blockage, maybe they're not eating correctly. You go through the gamut when you're talking to them, and maybe they have some trauma that's really still that's where they hold out their stress, maybe in their legs or in their jaw or that kind of thing, and those are things that you are trained to look at and trained to assess, yeah, in a
So the
certain
bottom line is the fascial system, and I'm trained in the fascial system
way. Hmm.
through John Barnes, who's a PT who has his own way of doing things. And the fascial system is not just, physical, it's emotional and energetic as
Hmm.
well, because what are we but energy molecules?
Hmm.
So, and actually, even with tarot, right,
Hmm.
and oracle readings, etc., we can actually add that in since I've been doing tarot since I can remember,
Hmm.
and taking tarot classes to better the way I read, to understand it better. We talked about this the other day.
Hmm.
Um, that is energy. That card you pulled is energy.
Hmm.
And how we take that card in, how we individually take that card. Yes, they have basic meanings, but each basic meaning can be different to each individual, just like everybody's body is individual, even though we're made up of the same things.
Right, that's
Yeah.
incredible, and I mean, like, mind blown at this moment because it makes so much sense that, and not only that, and I feel like kind of connecting that spiritual side to things, it's how we think about ourselves too, right? Because, we're not cookie cutter individuals. Yes, we all have different ailments, and yes, we all have different stress levels, But at the end of the day, when it is that somebody's coming to you for advice or guidance or even help within that body environment, and you're
Mm-hmm.
working on them as I'm working on somebody that would need the help, they have to take that and move it forward as energy would be. Take that, they feel good today and I've given them a great thing, right? And you have too. And they take that
Yes.
energy, they have to continue it. And that's the hardest part.
It is taking it home. It's not homework. I hate to say that because
Mhm.
there's such a negativity behind homework, but like my clients leave with homework. I
Right.
mean, you have
And
to go home and take care of yourself. You have to do the
yes,
work. You
mine
have
as
to.
well. And and sometimes they don't do that. And that's something that's on them. It's not on you. So if somebody comes to you with the same problem and you're like, well, you're, still walking on 6-inch heels, like, what are you doing? Or whatever it is, or you're still walking in this way, because I do feel like the movement factor that you really look at, you're looking at every part of that person, what they eat,
Yes.
what their skin is like, what they do, what anything that they're thinking about, or their stress level, or what they have going on, because you can tell what's going on just by them being on your table or seeing them
Yes.
walk in. It's
Yes.
really interesting to me.
So what I have learned in my 27 years of doing body work
Mhm.
and energy work is this. I used to take it personally if I would give somebody something to do and they didn't do it, or they would stop seeing me and then they come back like a year or two later, even worse. And people have to be ready to do the things you want them to do. So, but you have to also meet a person where they're at.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's it. Um, if they're not ready to do those things, I'm not going to say don't come back. I can still help them,
Mhm.
but it would take them along their way a little easier and maybe a little quicker if they did some of those things.
Yeah. Oh, I think that that's a great way to put it. Like, you can't take it personal. And I've been in that situation too, where I've been like, what does this
What the
person need
heck?
from me, that I've been telling them the same thing, he dump him or whatever it is, right?
Right,
And
right.
then it comes to the point where, you can't change that other person. You can only help them in what they give you at that moment in time.
So
So
no, you go
go ahead.
ahead. No,
No, go
you go
ahead.
ahead. No.
Oh,
So I was going to say this, Sarah, because because the other day we kind of talked about this. We definitely touched upon it. Um, that remember I said the other day I was like, oh, when I first started to go to tarot readers a long time ago, I was there because I wanted them to predict, right?
mhm,
Well, I did not know my power at that moment in time.
mhm.
And let's
Yep.
face it, like learning about your power is like I tell my clients, like your body is like an onion. It's like in layers and layers and layers. And sometimes those layers are like really, you have to like not, not I don't want to say like you have to do a little shadow work, right? Like you got
Mhm,
to really get in there and undo some of the really deep aspects of, and that's never fun,
mhm.
you know,
No.
right? But it's necessary sometimes.
Mhm,
And so, but as you develop, you like start to see readers because you want them to confirm that you're on the right path.
mhm,
You
mhm.
know, you want homework because you're looking to develop yourself to walk forward to be a better person so you can be a better person for other people, whether it's just
Yep.
your family or someone else, or like, you know, if you're,
Mhm.
you know, a person who loves the world, then it's for the world, right?
Right, right. And
Mm.
we even a practice like yours, we look to highest and best, right? We
Yes,
want
I
the
love
highest
that.
and best. Yep, I do too. We want the highest and best for our lives. It doesn't mean that you're on top of the world and that you are better than anybody. It's the highest and
Correct.
best version of yourself, right? And I look at it like I've got kids who are in school, right? And when they're down on themselves that they didn't do something correctly. I have a little guy who's learning how to read. He's in first grade and he's doing great,
Mm.
but he doesn't have self confidence yet when it comes to that. As soon as we get into a book, then he does. But
Right.
to start it off, he feels like he's not reading very well, and I say, "Honey, highest and best." It's you once you start it, you're going to feel a lot better, and then that's going to push you in a different direction, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
every day we change, and every day we strive to be a better person. And sometimes we don't have a day that we can do that. We need that time to
Right.
say, I'm not going to be that kind of person today. I'm going to take some time for myself.
Right.
I think it's kind of, we're not taught to do that, especially in this Eastern society or this Western society that we have, to take that time for ourselves a little bit differently. And,
Mhm.
I've instilled that within my family or my kids, that it's okay to take a personal day. You don't do it all the time, but when you need to take a day for yourself, hey, we need a day just jammies. We need a day of just hanging around and watching TV. We need a day to kind of connect to ourselves. And that's
Mhm.
important too. And I think that, as a lover of the world like you are, sometimes you just need those days of, I'm not going to put too much pressure on myself today. And that's in the same vein of not getting angry at your clients or not getting frustrated with your clients when they're not doing their homework, because
Yes.
maybe they're incapable of doing it. Maybe they haven't carved up enough time in their day, and maybe they're not choosing the highest and best version of themselves to do that.
Right, at that
So
moment. Yeah.
exactly. But you give them the service and you provide for them, and you hope that the next time they come they feel better and they're doing some of the exercises or some of the things that you the stretches that you've asked them to do, and that they feel a lot better coming to see you.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, I get a client or two that basically are like, "Well, how do you know that? And why?" And all these questions, and I answer things as best as I can. And that's it. Like, I'm not a knower of everything.
Mhm.
I'm
Nope.
here learning like everybody else, and
Right.
sometimes, like I even said to you, what's my biggest struggle with tarot is tarot. It's
Right.
placement, tarot placement, right?
Right.
In a
Right.
in a reading, right? So, that's why I like to read oracle cards. For me, it's more in your face, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
I put my cards out, like, I always pick some cards. I take a couple of decks to work with me, and I pick my cards, and I put them up on the wall in these little cubby holes, and, like 9 out of 10 times when I'm with a client, those cards are definitely for my clients more
Mhm.
than me. So,
Mhm. Yep.
and it's quite interesting to like be like, "Oh, look. Oh, we're talking about communication. Look, I picked it right there. Authentic voice."
Right. Right.
Right?
Right. It's
Right.
funny, I always say too, universe has jokes.
Yes.
Because every once in a while you'll get hit upside the head with something and you'll be like, haha, that's funny. Like, did you have to tell me in that way? Like, I understand,
Right.
universe has jokes, right? So it happens to me often where I'll shuffle the deck, especially for myself. I'll shuffle the deck and I'll pull a card and be like, maybe that's not for me. And I'll put it back and then I'll shuffle and then I'll get it again. And I'm like, universe has jokes. I mean, it's at some point I'm going to have to face this and look at this card and really kind of go into it. And
Mm,
it's just becoming yourself and looking at that and saying, like, there's always a purpose and a reason that we do things. There's a
mm,
purpose and a reason that we surround ourselves with the people that we do, and there's a purpose and reason that you have created this journey for yourself and that you are literally dancing to the beat of your own drum,
yes.
because your family is not a bunch of holistic practitioners, and here you are forging your way forward with such a different perspective than most. And it's always a constant work in progress. I love that about you. You're very humble in the sense of, I'm taking this class, I'm doing this, I'm not really understanding, I'm going to put it aside, I'm going to do, it's human. You don't look at yourself as better than most. You don't look at yourself because of the 27 years you have under your belt. It's always a learning process. It's always changing what your approach is to be better version of yourself, as well as for the world in front of you. But, I love the fact that you're always learning something and you're always willing to do that. Planting those seeds in different directions, that's so important. A lot of people, when they get stuck in their own practice or their own craft, they don't necessarily take a step back and say, maybe I should take that random class. You're not above it. If you feel called to do it, then do it.
Well, as a dancer, it's so funny. Like, as a dancer that's like many years a dancer, like when you're a young dancer, you're like, okay, I want to be advanced. I want to be advanced. I want to be. And then you get to advanced. And then you're told you should be taking some beginning classes because you always have to come at things as a beginner. If you can put yourself into this phrase, be curious.
Mhm. I love
So
that.
right? Just be curious.
Hmm.
What would it be like to honestly, I should take a beginner's massage class. Just so, I mean, I know there's tons of things in the 27 years, right? Like I have probably forgotten,
Right.
right? Right.
Or, even so, but having a different instructor's perspective, I feel like also because you and I, you took a tarot class before me, correct?
Oh yeah, I've had like several
Right.
tarot classes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the intensive that I taught, it's a different perspective to look at that. And sometimes it's not necessarily you're learning the material, it's how it's being taught to you in the
Yes.
persona of that instructor or, kind of the environment in which that you're learning. All of these factors are part of that, whether or not that you retain that information. So yeah, why not go back to basics and kind of relearn certain things? Because as human beings, we should always evolve, even if that looks like we're going down or we're kind of backtracking a little bit. It's okay because it's only going to make you sharper on the other end.
Correct. Correct.
I love that.
It's like watching a Korean drama.
Just like that.
It is, and you know why? Because I've watched there's this one Korean drama I absolutely love because it's not just romantic, but it's poetic in places. But because it's about time travel, I have to go back. Every time I go back and watch it again, there's something else I missed.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's the
Eh,
same thing with your life. If you go back, there might be something that you missed the first time,
right. Yep.
or there might be somebody that you might meet on that journey,
Right. That
you
either
know?
needs you or that you needed to connect with or whatever it looks like. But I feel like that's so important to look back in time and kind of, for me, I love tarot. I love talking about tarot. It's my thing. I love it. That doesn't mean that I know everything about it.
Correct.
And I always say that we learn from each other. Reading for
Yes.
readers is an honor for me because you might read something differently the way that I read it, but it's still something that we can learn together. Nobody's better than anybody else, whether you've written 30 books on the subject, whether you've taught 300 hours worth of classes, it doesn't matter. There's always a perspective or there's always something that you can learn a little bit different that's only going to better you if you choose to do that.
Right.
That's a great perspective, or that's a great kind of school of thought, no pun intended, to go back in time and take some of those classes. There were a couple of times that I was like, oh, maybe I should take that, mediumship class, or maybe I should do that. And then something inside me was like, I don't really need that because I do it on the daily. But who's to say that I don't pick up something else that I might need? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it just depends on who's teaching the mediumship class,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. You'll get something from anything and everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right, right.
um, yeah, it's cool. It's
It
cool
is
to be
cool.
curious.
I love that too. Like, let's be curious about things. Let's learn about them. And how many of the people who are listening and watching out there, and I'm sure that you do too. Once you get involved with something, or you watch that Korean drama, and they're talking about something that you don't understand, I call it a wiki hole. I get into Wikipedia, and I'm like, oh, and then this, and then this, and then this. It's
Yep.
just we're downloading that information a little bit
Yes.
differently now than what we've learned as children, right? But
Yes.
it's a thirst for knowledge that we're just quenching again. And
Yes.
I can tell you how many books I have lined up on my bedside table about different subjects and different things, and I really should crack them open. And even though I've read some of them before, I feel like, sometimes it's okay to revisit because you will pick up little pieces of what you missed, or you'll remember or be reminded of things that you were like, "Oh my god, that's right. I didn't process that this way now. Now that my life is 5 years past that moment of reading it the first time, now I'm really getting it a little bit differently, or maybe I can
Yes.
really it resonates a little bit differently."
It's true. John Barnes, he requires after a certain point in the myofascial classes that you go back and either take myofascial 1 or 2 again. I think you can either do 1 or 2 again, and
Mhm.
then I think unwinding 1 again. Like he makes you take the beginner classes again because it's so easy to lose that
Mhm.
feeling of that you're not supposed to put like really a whole ton of pressure when you do fascial work. You're supposed to be, it's like really a light touch going in and sinking. And when you're working on, 4 people a day, how many days a
Oh
week,
my gosh.
you start to lose that feeling. So if you go back and remind yourself how to do that, then, again, you pick up another layer.
That's incredible. And it ties all in of we all hold on to different things, like you said earlier, within layers. So you pick up that little bit, or you kind of pad that bigger, you add to that layer that you were working on. I think that that quest for knowledge and being curious is really the greatest way to, and honestly, you are an inspiration because you are constantly talking about things that really intrigue people in a way. Like you look outside the box a lot more so than most. And you have said before that you attribute that to being an Aquarian woman, and that's your mind is always thinking about things a little bit differently. So, what are you thinking about taking now, or what are you kind of looking into now? I'm curious to know.
Well, right now I'm actually learning Italian on Duolingo, and I'm really loving that. Not only
Why
that, but
not?
I know, I know. So, like I said, I think this year I'm looking into taking NKT1 again. I took it a couple of years ago in Washington, D.C., and I got it, but I didn't get it, So
Hmm.
I practice it
Hmm.
a little bit on my clients, but I'm a little frustrated with it. So
Hmm.
I'm going to go to Toronto, I think, and take it with Dr. Dooley and take it again. And then if it really, like, if it sinks in the second time, great. If it doesn't, then I'm going to dump it
Yeah.
and move on,
Yep.
to something else. So
Hmm.
also, I'm looking into taking, I did my pre-training for gyrokinesis, which is the gyrotonic expansion system, but on a stool, on a mat. It's like a mat class.
Hmm.
So, as soon as I can figure out how to move through that, because it seems a little bit more difficult to
Hmm.
find that class around that, because you have to do I don't want to say like an internship or after you learn the basic. And so I don't really want to do that in California and then have to like,
Come back this way. Mm.
yeah. So
Hmm.
I have to find something closer.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but other than that, I'm like kind of open. I have a friend who out in Portland, Oregon, who's doing a advanced Reiki class in May. I
Hmm.
wanted to take it this year and I couldn't get there, so I'm thinking of that as well.
Hmm.
At least if
That's
I
really
do the
cool.
advanced Reiki class, I could probably teach too.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
really am looking into teaching. I don't know how that's gonna develop, but
Well, you definitely have a lot to share. I feel like not only within the movement portion of your craft, but also with dealing with a lot of that spiritual nature, because people don't realize that when they're going to you for a specific service, i.e., to make them feel better about whatever's happening within their bodies, spiritually, you are connecting to them. You're literally giving them Reiki as you touch them. You are connecting to them
yes,
by looking at the cards that you've already pulled throughout the day. You're getting messages from their loved ones. You're talking about certain,
that's
things
so
that they
true.
need to hear, because on an energetic level, you are healing them. And through healing, it's a very multifaceted thing. It's not just one thing that we try. Yep, okay, here's your pill and have a nice day. No, sometimes with that pill comes X, Y, and Z, right? So
It's
we
so
know that
funny.
it's so many different facets and so many different ways that we can look at that, what healing looks like, and it's not linear. So your
Right.
healing, yes, and your healing is not my healing. So sometimes we need to give a little bit of patience to that
Right.
person that we're healing, because we have to kind of put our ego aside, or our human side to the wayside, and say, I know that you're hurting through this. Let's see if we can get you to a better space. We can't do it for them, just like we talked about that earlier. You can't do it for them, but you can start the process for them.
Well, it's so funny because I have some clients who are who are always like, I had these two different clients in my mind who said to me, both male actually, who said, "Oh, somebody came up to me at the gym and they wanted to share their Reiki healing with me. So I'm going to see them for Reiki. I go, well, I do Reiki on you every single time you come in here. And they're like, oh, really? Really? And yeah, really, because it's
Mhm.
just part. I mean, I've been a Reiki 1, 2 since the late 90s. And,
Mhm.
I never felt the need to go any further with that. And it just obviously comes through
Mhm.
spiritually. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
you can feel what's off with these folks that you're healing or that you're doing body work on, oh, you can feel that throat chakra be very, kind of
Tight.
stuck and blocked and tight, right? And you can literally feel their muscles do the same, or solar plexus, or even their tension within other areas. You can equate that to different things.
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
touch anybody, but what I'm doing is an energetic exchange. So, in the
Right.
lowest formation or the lowest kind of level, that is a form of that healing energy that I'm trying to put out there. And it's more of connecting through that mindset, or, whatever their loved ones have to say based on what Tara was telling me. But I'm not touching their bodies. And that's an entirely different side that they may need on top of it, you know?
Right. But, in tarot, if you look at some of the cards, right, can coincide with the physicality,
hmm You are entirely right. Yep.
right?
A lot of people lately, especially because a lot of people towards the end of the year, I find, and at the beginning of the new year, want to talk about what their health looks like within
Right.
a tarot or within that reading format. And unfortunately, it's not something that we can really give you a lot of insight. And I'm sure there are readers who would disagree with me, but for what I feel comfortable doing, I'm not a doctor,
Sure.
so I don't want to lead them in a direction that would make them feel that they need to do anything differently within their form of healthcare, which I feel like for you is a little bit different because what you can provide is you can see the proof is in the pudding for what you have, right? So
Right.
for me, I don't like to get into too much health stuff because it's a slippery slope for me. But it is.
Yes.
It's a slippery slope. But for what we can see that a lot of people, again, at this kind of time of the year and in the beginning of next, because we do see that influx of people who are trying to better themselves based on the way that they look and feel. New Year's resolutions are a big, testament to that. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to exercise. And that's why all these exercise equipments. And the next thing you know, everything's talking about whatever you're doing for your body. Right.
Right.
Anyway,
Right.
what I was trying to get at with that is that, we can guide them in a certain direction. We
Correct.
can kind of talk about certain things, but they have to kind of pick those pieces up and move them forward in whatever way that looks natural to them. For you, I feel like it's a little different because you are literally touching their body, energetically feeling what they have going on, and kind of making sure that that movement is happening, right? So
Yeah.
you are doing the Reiki on people no matter what it is that you're doing. You can feel that
Right.
stuff.
Yes. So I have to tell you, and I think like for me, the best thing is if I don't really know, I defer to doctors, I
Mhm.
defer to PTs.
Mhm.
If I mean, I am very clear about what I can do
Mhm.
and who I am. And I think that's another good piece of advice for everybody. Like, know who you are and what you can do.
Mhm.
When you don't know, you're a human being, you're not supposed to know everything. You defer to the person who would know.
Right. Right.
That is it. So if someone comes in and says, "Oh, well, I think it's just heartburn, da 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 da," da," and
Yeah.
I don't know, some card shows up and you're like, "Go to the doctor."
Right. Right. And I
Period.
always say it's above my pay grade.
That's true.
However, and I don't have the licenses for that. But what I can
Correct.
tell you is that, if you're feeling a certain way, then it's absolutely where you should be. So if you think that you should be checked out, by all means, you're going to be checked out.
Exactly.
And it's just funny to me that energetically we're getting that no matter what happens. But I'm sure that you get a lot of like an influx of people who, oh, that's been bothering me all year, but I'm going to make an appointment for now,
Yeah, I know.
Okay. It's just the
Yeah.
nature of the beast of what
Well,
what it is.
it is, and I always go, "I'll do my best." right now.
Mhm.
And, you might have to come back, or if you feel like it, and if you don't, you don't. There's nothing I can do about that. I'll do my very best at this moment in time, and that's all
Mhm.
I can do.
Right. Yep, and it's all dependent on how you feel about, because you're only one human being, much like,
Yeah,
if I don't feel good, I can't perform, I can't do a certain thing for anybody, and same for you.
right.
If you're not feeling good, you're not gonna be able to give somebody the best massage that they've ever had, although, that's what you do,
Yeah,
you
I try.
yes, and you do, and you can tell that your touch is different, it's not for pleasure, it's not for pain, it's for you to feel better, and that's what you have done. 27 years in the business speaks volumes.
Yes, yes. Just
So
clearing it all out, clearing it
I
out,
know, I
clearing it
know.
out, clearing it
And
out.
the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, you have a really a different perspective on things. Do you, in the sense of, like, you think more globally than most, and it's not just because you're Aquarius. It's because of who that you are and what you've kind of brought into the world. And we talked a little bit about, your family and your upbringing, and just to kind of scratch the surface, you are one in a million when it comes to that. Do you feel like your outlook, or kind of why you the journey that it has been of yours, has been because you've traveled a lot and that you've experienced different things? Because every time I talk to you, you tell me about something else that you did, and I'm like, "You did that? You have so many things that you've done."
Well, I feel very blessed because I actually had very supportive parents.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
mean, I didn't come from wealth, but they
Mhm.
supported me emotionally. And if I
Mhm.
did need something like in a pinch, I got it. They came through for me. But, very like, I guess I was about 24 when I decided I needed to, head out of here because I grew up in Rhode Island.
Mhm.
And, I started off with being a DJ, and I was, a DJ in a couple of different places. And then my journey has been, I was in a very horrible car accident, and then I came back here to Rhode Island for a year, and then I went back down to Maryland, which I consider my second home.
Mhm.
And then from there, it was not easy because those years after that car accident, I went back to school. I wanted to be a PT. I couldn't do that. I
Mhm.
tried to do the pre-program for it, and I couldn't do it. I was like, fail, 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 fail. And then I was in a dance program at University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and somebody said, "Oh, you should try massage therapy." And so that's how I got into massage. And then actually, like you just meet people down in the DC area. There's people from all over the world. There's
Mhm.
people all over the world here in Rhode Island too, but I didn't have the
Mhm.
pleasure when I was here to meet those people,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. Yep,
Right?
of course.
But it was very exciting down in DC. It's like very, 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 very exciting.
Mhm.
So, I met people, I went to India, I just like did things. I wanted
Mhm.
to like meet new friends. So I did team and training and went to oh God, I did 100-mile bike ride, you know, out west. And, like you just open yourself, if you can open yourself up to being with new people,
Mhm.
it's great to be comfortable, but sometimes it's great to be uncomfortable.
So it goes back to what you said earlier about being curious.
Yes,
Sometimes we have to follow that path of resistance or unknown, and we have to sow those wild oats and do things that really it's only for us that we're doing them. And it doesn't mean that, you know, for your situation to be able to have supportive people who will be like, "Oh, go ahead and go live in that area and go do those things." Some people can't afford that in the sense of the
correct,
time, the energy, the money. But at the same
correct.
time, if you are still curious about what's happening, we can learn more now than we ever could way back when you were doing that, or when I moved to New York City, when I lived on Block Island, right?
Correct.
We can
Correct.
just learn things in the comfort of our own home. Just like you're learning Italian. You know, like
Right.
you can,
I love
if
it.
you are curious, you can do it in any sort of way that you'd like to. So, but it's the mentality of continuing that education, continuing to look at things with eyes wide open. Um, oh, yay. Can you see that?
Yes, this
Yay.
is
Thanks,
awesome.
Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you are continuing to do that within your lifestyle and just whatever you can make happen, then you're going to make happen. It kind of reminds me of my favorite person, who's my grandmother, and
Aw.
she didn't get her license until she was in her 30s,
Wow.
and walked everywhere and was the smartest person that I know. And she did not go to college. She didn't even graduate from high school. She and eventually got her GED. But it doesn't matter what you have. If you are curious, you are going to know things.
Yes,
And I feel like that's really important to look at that and say you've lived a great life in what you've experienced. Yes, you brought it
definitely.
back to Rhode Island, but you know that that's not it. There's so much more that you're learning about yourself as well as what you're continuing to do, and that's important.
And, there's lots of things to do here. There's lots of things to learn here. And I mean, Boston's an hour away. I mean,
Mhm.
granted, okay, maybe you don't have a car. I didn't, I had a car in DC, but the metro is what I used most of the time to go down to the
Mhm.
museums on a Sunday morning.
Oh
You
my
know,
god.
I mean, you just go down, but the museums
Mhm.
mostly, and not so much anymore. There are some that you have to pay for, but most of them are free.
Right,
So
right.
you got to find the stuff that
Mhm.
resonates with you that you can do. And there's
Mhm.
always someone that can help you. I'm really
Mhm.
serious. You have to just be open to asking for help if you need it. You
Mhm.
can't have
Mhm.
pride and feel any certain ways. Ask for help.
It's the whole idea of continuing to be curious. And when we look at, children, for instance, and they ask the questions that we as adults are like, ooh, don't ask that. But they are curious. They're doing it from a place of innocence. And if that
Correct.
is why you are asking for help for certain things, because you do not know, you are inherently innocent and you don't know. I don't know what the protocols are. I don't know what the proper thing is. And when somebody helps you and teaches you a way to be, then you learn, and then you
Right.
you jump off from there and you go forward with that,
And you
and
pass
it
it
just
on.
and you pass it on. That's right.
Right.
So, of all the classes and all the things that you've learned, I do feel that when I look at you and I see the practices that you do, I see a lot of that selflessness. People would say, "Oh, she's done this, and it's only been her." But the thing is that you've given yourself up to. This is the journey. This is the universe telling me where I need to be, and I'm gonna go with it. There's a reason why, this is all happening to me, and it's not necessarily a bad one. It's a lesson that I'm learning. There you go, lessons. If we don't
Lessons.
know, we have to learn some way or somehow. So that's what we're doing.
I mean, do we ever think that, like when you first are here and when you're in your 20s, that this is all about lessons? You don't think that way, but then, yeah,
No.
you go through certain things in your life, troubles and good things and bad things, or I hate those two words, good and bad, because
Hmm.
it just is. It's everything is part of life. If we can go
Hmm.
through life and love it instead of looking at that you feel like it's a personal affront against you.
Yeah,
You know what
right.
I'm saying?
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
do.
where I'm running with that, but
No, I think it's a good point to have, because again, you have so much under your belt. And I was telling King Michael, the producer, when I was talking about you, I was like, she doesn't necessarily have a website or anything that we can go to learn more. It's more of your person. It's more of what your individual experience has have been, and where and how you look at things, that I find so intriguing and I find so interesting. And that you are, a day-to-day person. Like you make this experience your own, and that it's normal. You're not
yeah,
this foofy lady. You're literally like, yeah, I did that, and I'm learning about this, and I'm learning Italian in my spare time. It's like people can do these things. And if we're on that page of betterment when it comes to at the end of the year, kind of putting ourselves under that microscope, and then
yes,
going into the beginning of the year and trying to do better, maybe if it's you take anything from this podcast today or you take anything from this situation, it's to continue to be curious. So if that's one of
That's it.
anybody's, I think that's what I'm going to make as my resolution. Continue to be curious.
Yes.
It's so important to look at things with eyes wide open and have that innocence, that childlike innocence to learn more. You don't know
Yes.
about it? Let me read on it. Let me look at this. Let me go down a wiki hole. Let me go to the
Right.
museum. Museums are a plethora of knowledge for just any, you know, if you don't like the Impressionists, you don't have to go there. You can go look at this or that.
They all have their stories.
Yeah.
It's all stories, right? So if you
Mhm.
don't like your story that you're on right now, change your story. It's a story.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I agree with that 150%. I tell people every single day when I sit in my chair, these are just pieces of paper. This is just a piece of paper. If you don't like it, you can figure out something else. You have free will. That's the beauty of being a human being, is that we don't have to look at everything as bad. And again, we have to look at the light and the dark of the situation, if this makes sense. So kind
Yes.
of talking back to or harkening back to what you talked about with the layers of things,
Mm-hmm.
there are those layers a little bit more difficult to peel back, and there are the layers that are quite easy to peel back, and that
Right.
just makes us individual in certain ways. Yeah, there's going to be, and I know that you don't necessarily like that phrase, I don't really either, good and bad. I like to say light and dark. You don't have to look at things as so positive. Again, if the moment is calling for you to go into hermit mode for a couple of days and not shower and stay in your jammies, then that's something that you need to do, and you need to listen to that. People might think, oh, you need to get dressed and get out of here. No, it's, I need to do this for myself. It's not necessarily bad, but it's a part of me that I have to recognize. It's a little bit of a harder layer to pull back. It's a little bit more difficult for me to get out of this, but I'm learning the lesson that I need to do that,
Right.
you know?
Yes.
And kind of putting this forward in a way that makes sense is that, you know, especially with this card that we see
Mm-hmm.
today,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there are certain things that we're always working on and we're always building and we're always, you know, and sometimes I like to look at this card as building an empire. It's your empire. It's not your father's, it's not your mother's, it's not your husband, it's not your wives, it's not your kids, it's not your teacher, it's not, it's yours. So if you feel that you have to backtrack and relook at some of those things or revisit some of those things, that's
Yes.
your journey. That's
Yes.
your empire. It's
Yes.
planting a seed in a place that you really needed to, and watering it a little bit every once in a while.
Yeah,
You know,
that's important.
we never drink enough water.
I definitely don't drink enough water, especially in the
I don't
winter.
either. I don't either. My skin is, so we went to Salem this weekend, and
It's so
I
beautiful.
got, yeah, and you know, my hands are so dry. I'm like, oh, I should keep putting lotion on because it's going to keep it. But you know,
Moist.
it's just one of those. I don't drink enough water. Um, so, what do the holidays have in store for you? What do you are you traveling? Are you doing anything fun? Are you,
Mm. I
well, maybe not the holidays. I shouldn't say that. But what's your next big adventure? Because I know you always have something in the works.
Hmm. I actually, I'm taking some time off after Christmas. My family, my nephew's going to be in town, and I really want to see him.
Hmm.
I'm going to go down to DC in the beginning of next year because my bestie is down there, and I have a couple of besties down there,
Hmm.
and um, and I'm probably going to go hang with them.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of just open to
Hmm.
business plans for myself and
Hmm.
not
Yep.
really putting any like definitives on anything because
Hmm.
it is going to be important for me to move myself forward in the next 5 years. And, you know, every day I pick a couple of cards or I see you,
Hmm.
I mean, I just always need guidance. I talk to you, I talk to other people, I talk to my ancestors. I'm constantly, probably my poor mother, I'm bugging her all the time on the other side,
No.
Anyway, so, or my dad. But I mean, ultimately, like I'm not like goody two shoes, but I really feel blessed. So I
Hmm.
really just want
Yeah.
to like go into the next year feeling blessed and to
Mhm.
whatever is gonna happen next.
Yep, I love that. I love that sentiment. I think it's so important to look at that and say, like, as in a place of gratitude for what's kind of happening and what's going to happen going forward. You're taking the time off to do what's necessary. But I do feel like what will happen is that there'll be bigger things that you'll end up going to learn about and doing. You have a lot of things on your docket anyway that you want to do. Italian being one of them. I mean, have you ever been to Italy? I have not.
I have not, but I'm also looking for a Korean teacher. So if there's anybody out there that
Oh,
knows Korean, I am looking for a Korean teacher so that I can watch my Korean shows, but not have to be in the same room all the time to understand what's happening.
right. Oh my God, that's so interesting. There was a class that I took in high school, and I don't think it was a French class. I think it was actually an English class, but the movie wasn't French that we watched. I can't remember what it was off
I
the
love
top of my
French
head.
movies.
I do too. And we watched it because we had read the book and it was in French. And so many people were like, I can't keep up with the subtitles, but I loved it. And I
You get
watched
used to it.
I know, you do, and you can kind of look at the movie and read the subtitles. Oh, I know, it wasn't in French, it was Life is Beautiful. It was
It was
Life is Beautiful.
Italian.
It was Italian, yes, it was, and, we watched it in English class, and I think that we read something that was very similar to that, but it was such a
That's
it
amazing.
doesn't Yep, it doesn't necessarily matter, it's just kind of where you need to put yourself and say, like, "This is something that I'm looking at and learning."
I mean, other cultures are so interesting. And here's why. It's because everybody is in the same boat, but just in a different country. So when
Yes.
you go to a different country like India,
Mhm.
which is a very poor country,
Mhm.
uh, you know, everyone is going through the same thing.
Mhm.
So you're just experiencing what you usually experience at home in a different country. So
Mhm.
it puts humanity all on the same level.
Yes. Yep. It sure does. I was actually just having this conversation. I connected with an old friend on Facebook, and I went to her house today for a cup of coffee, and we were chatting and we were talking. She had lived in Barcelona for a little while. Her
Mhm.
husband's job had kind of sent them that direction for
Mhm.
a small
Always
time.
wanted to go there.
Yeah, and she was telling me about the standard of living out there is so different. Like the cost of living, people are so much more laid back. And she was saying that when her husband would come home from work, he would not be as stressed as when he comes home from work here in New England or in the States. How stressed. But we're all on the same planet. We're all looking at the same stars. We're all looking at the same moon, and here we are, right? And it's just kind of about what we're doing with that energy and we're doing with that kind of perspective. I feel like that's really important.
I mean, if you can't get to an like I was in Switzerland a year ago and like to look at those mountains and the lakes is I mean, that place is just remarkable. It's
Hmm.
magical.
Hmm.
But if you cannot get there, I mean, we have computers. You can see it. You can see it on your
Hmm.
computer. It is just as magical, right?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
just as magical to look at Antelope Canyon. I think Antelope Canyon was I think it was Apple Computer used Antelope Canyon like
Oh
remember
yeah,
in the
yeah.
beginning as one of their things and it became like
Uh-huh.
everybody went to Antelope Canyon. No one knew about it prior to that or very
Hmm.
few people or whatever.
Hmm.
And I just feel like you can experience things. You can bring things to you. You
Hmm.
can bring them to you.
Hmm.
You can't look outside yourself and yearn for it. You have to bring that yearning to you.
Antelope Canyon is the
Yeah.
ticker tape down below. Antelope Canyon. You want
Did
to
you look at
go?
it? Yeah, let's
You
go.
yeah. See, the thing too also about you that people might not understand is that it's always an adventure. And to listen to you and to hear some of the stories about some of the places that you visited and some of the places that you've been, as well as what your mindset has been throughout that is it's so refreshing and it's inspiring as well.
Thank
It's
you.
just to have a different perspective on life as to think about things in a different way, right? We get stuck in these ways of this is what needs to happen and this is where I need to be, right? But when you look out and this card is that kind of that that
I love
persona or
it.
that personification, looking out at something entirely different to make sure that it's something that jives with you, then that makes sense, you know? And
Yeah.
I think that you've picked and chosen and gone through and kind of you've had a lot more experiences than most to figure out what little pieces you want to take with you, but you're not afraid to look back and relearn lessons. And that's a great way to put it, to be curious and continue to
Yes.
do that and to continue to look at your life with eyes wide open and
Eyes
try
wide
to get
open.
whatever you can. Try to get whatever you
Exactly.
can out of it,
Exactly,
you know?
because I only have this one life to live as who I am.
Right.
When
And then
when
when we're
it's over, it's over.
reincarnated, yes. When we're reincarnated and then come back as something else or wherever we were meant to be, then we won't remember. You won't remember being Karen or you won't
Right.
remember being, this wonderful massage therapist, but you'll take that soul with you wherever you go. And, I won't remember being a legit witch MD. I won't
I
remember
love it,
that.
because you are.
I won't remember that. And that's Master of Divination for those of you who are thinking, MD, she just said she didn't have those certifications. That's above my pay grade. But Master of Divination, I
I
can
love
work
it.
on that. Yeah.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yes. So, Karen, if people want to find you or book with you or are looking for your services, what's the best way to get in touch with you? Do you have, I know you're not super active on socials and you don't have necessarily your own webpage that you do
I
anything
know. I
for or
need help with
from.
that.
Yeah.
I need
Well,
help with
are
that.
there,
That's my weakness.
mhm.
So you can email me or you
Okay.
can text me. So I can give you
Okay.
my phone number.
Yep, yep. I
Yep.
will when we post this, I will post it in and you can if you follow legitpodcast.com or you follow me, Lachette Noir Tarot, I will make sure that you can get in touch with Karen if you do want to book a session with her. Highly, highly, highly recommend. I've done it. She's helped me through a bunch of different ailments and things, but also it's such a freeing experience. You don't sugarcoat things, but at the same time, you deliver your deliverance in the way that you really are doing it from a place of healing. You're doing it from a place of help. You're not doing it because you want to book more or you want to do more. It's more, look at the bottom, 1
I
800.
see.
We got jokes here at legitpodcast.com. We got jokes. But yeah, we'll make sure that we get that for anybody who's looking for it. And if you
That's
need to
really funny.
contact, yeah, yep, he's got jokes. I'll tell you what. Um, so
Okay.
we're kind of at the end of the show.
All right.
Mike,
This has
don't
been a
yell at
lot
me.
of fun. Thank you.
I know, right? Mike, it's 58:52. He always yells at me because I can never get to 1 hour on the dot, but I'm doing it
Oh,
today.
well,
I'm
okay.
doing
We
it.
only have a minute left, so
I know, right? But anyway, if there's
okay.
anything else that we want to kind of go over within this little bit, is there anything that you have going on that you wanted to talk about or, just enjoy the holiday, that kind of a thing? Anything you want to leave us with?
Well, I just, as curious as I am, I have had my own I have my own struggles,
Mhm.
and so struggles are real. I'm not sitting
Right.
here being you know, oh, everything's so
No.
happy, happy. So struggles are real. I understand it, and it's
Hmm.
important to have it's important to have people that you can trust to talk to, and
Hmm.
so going into the holidays, just know that.
Right.
Find the person
Right.
that you can talk to.
Right. If that's what you need, if that's where you're at, or that's where, it makes sense too, because like we talked about with those layers, sometimes some of those layers are really tough to get through. But if you have support in any sort of way, it doesn't have to be family.
Correct.
It can be chosen family. It can be friends. It can be,
It can
anything that you
be
want it
the
to be.
legit witch. Yes.
It can be. It
Yes,
can
it
be.
can.
But to support people, that's the whole point.
That's right.
We don't do what we do to make a shit ton of money. We don't do it to be a millionaire. We do it because we really care about the people that we are surrounded by and we really want to help.
Correct.
If I wanted to be a millionaire, I wouldn't be in this job, that's for sure. But I would
Or I.
love, no, but I would love to, just say that it's what we do because we care. And,
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Unconditionally.
Hmm.
Unconditional love.
Yep, and that's what sometimes life has to be. You have to unconditionally love yourself as well as
Yes.
know that you're put
First.
on this yep, you're put on this planet to help others in some sort of fashion. You are one of those people and I strive to be one of
So
those
are you.
people. So, thank
Me
you.
too. Thank you.
So Karen McGovern, you're the best. Thank you for coming on
Thanks for
tonight.
having
I
me.
think, yep, and we'll have you on again at some point. But
Cool.
all the love. Thank you so much. For those
Same
of you
here.
watching, it is me, Sarah G, legit Witch MD. Say that 5 times fast, and I'll see you next week. Mwah! Happy Tarot Tuesday. If you haven't already picked your card, please go to Le Chat Noir Tarot on Facebook or on Instagram and go ahead and pick your card, and the reveal will be posted a little bit later. Thank you guys. We'll see you next week.